If you want to know how well you're doing at anything, and in particular, if you'd like to be able to compare your performance to anyone else's, including your own previous performance, then measurement is absolutely key. Measurement is important for any form of assessment or comparison. And that's why we invented the index. The index is a way of measuring how companies are doing at inclusion, diversity, and equity. Now, no measurement is perfect, especially not for things as potentially nebulous and broad as inclusion, diversity, and equity. However, some measurements are better than others. A good measurement, for example, is high in validity. So what does that mean? It means that you're measuring the thing that you really want to measure. And we make sure it does that in two ways. One, we base our work on the latest and the best of the social scientific research. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that we scale the points so that you get more points for doing things that take more effort and show a more meaningful difference. So for example, you get some points if you have an explicit diversity and inclusion statement somewhere in your website or your externally facing materials. But you get even more points if you have women and ethnic minorities properly represented at the highest levels of management and leadership. That takes a lot of work to do. So that's the kind of thing we like to do. We scale it so that you get more points for doing things that are bigger and more meaningful. Of course, there's more than that. There's 22 different submetrics split across 6 categories. So we make sure we're hitting all sorts of different areas of your company, including your explicit statements and your working environment and your leadership and all sorts of other things. But that's how we make sure that it's valid. We make sure it's measuring the thing that we'd like it to measure. The other thing you want it to be is sensitive. It has to be able to differentiate between the people who are doing things really well and the people who are doing it less well. It does that. We've tested it on 300 different companies, and we found huge variation between these companies. Some that are scoring really well in the high 70s and 80s, some that are doing less well in the low teens. So it does seem to point to something that is measurable and variable between the companies. And the last thing you want it to be is practical. So it should be easy to assess, and it should be easy to understand. We score it out of 45, but we give it to you in percentages. And we base it on all the public-facing materials. This is the stuff that a sleuth should be able to figure out about your company without your help. So what this means is, it's possible you're doing things really well, but not telling anyone and not advertising. In that case, the easiest thing you could do is simply let us know about all the brilliant stuff you're doing. Of course, there will be some things that are just harder to do than others. As I said before, it's more difficult to rearrange your management or leadership structure than it is to suddenly hire a bunch of people in lower positions. But that's the point. That's built into it. It's supposed to be harder to do these particular things. You're supposed to do them with a bit more effort and a bit more thought. And if you want to know how well you've done on it, get in touch, and we'd love to walk it through with you and show you where things went really well and where they went less well. If you do have any questions, please do get in touch. That is the Equality Group Inclusive Private Equity and Venture Capital Index 2021.